Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I have a reel today that I just refuse to give up on. I bought this one at a flea market a while ago. It sat around for quite some time because I've been pretty busy. And I keep saying to myself, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well. Then I don't. This is an Abu Cardinal Trophy Collection Cardinal reel. And it has a bad bearing in it. At least from my ear, it has a bad bearing in it. You can just kind of hear that noise. Now you can go fishing with it as it is. It's certainly a dependable enough reel to do that. But if I'm going to take this thing fishing, or if I'm going to pass it on to somebody, I want to make sure that that we resolve that issue. It says it's a 5-ball bearing drive reel. I haven't been inside this one. It's the 4000 TC Trophy Collection, and I'm going to take it apart. We're going to see what the issues are, see if we can resolve those issues, and in the process I will show you how the reel is made, how to service it, and how to get it out there fishing again, giving it a second chance. So I start by removing the exterior pieces, in this case the spool adjuster knob, the drag adjuster knob, the spool, and the like. While I do that, I like to thank our first responders and essential personnel and everybody who's keeping us safe during this pandemic. It's going on 1.5 years, maybe a little bit more. Your efforts truly are appreciated. You're our heroes every day. Thank you for all you do. Uniformed services, fire, police, EMT, and the like, as well as teachers, essential personnel like transit, healthcare workers in the hospitals, the long-term care facilities, the acute facilities, the nursing homes. Thank you for all it is that you do. All right, spool came off. I took a quick look here. This case runs under the rotor. So when you have a case that doesn't stop here, but rather runs under the rotor, you need to remove the rotor first. To do that, you're going to remove that spool adjuster washer and the click ratchet. They don't always come out as easy as that one, but that one came out pretty easy. Then in this case, we have a clip that holds this down. So it's a good place to tell you if you're working on a reel like this, you don't have the schematic diagram, you're not familiar with the reel. I'm not familiar with this reel, I haven't taken it apart, or any of its trophy collection counterparts. But if you're not familiar with the reel, the first thing you want to do is take pictures. That way you have a reference point as you're working through these, so that you know that you are on track, and if you get distracted, you can always find a reference in the pictures as to where the pieces and parts go in their orientation. This has got a 10 millimeter on it. I might be able to grab that with an open wrench. I'm going to try a socket first. And of course, I'm just short on that socket. If I cheat the socket, I should be able to do it. And I think what I'm finding out is it's not a 10 millimeter wrench. It's probably an 11 millimeter. To be an 11 millimeter wrench. I'm going to leave it both here. Once you break that tension on the nut, go ahead and do the rest by hand. Now we can remove the rotor. That's going to show us what we have underneath here. We have some dirt. We'll go clean that up in a little bit. We have a washer here. I'm going to lay these out for you. And we have a secondary washer. And if I get my vocabulary right, we have a tertiary washer, or the third washer in the stack. This one's a little shim washer that's a plastic washer. Then we have a cap that comes off that's your anti-reverse bearing. And we have a little override for that bearing here. This is a good place to take a picture. Make sure that you know where you are in the sequence and how to go put them back together again. So I know, because I just took the time to look at that this is the stack. I'm going to get these out of the way. I'm going to put them into a parts tray on the bottom of a jug that serves as my parts tray. I'm going to put them in that stack in that order so that I don't lose them. Alright, I want to take this handle off next. This simply screws off. Pull that out. I'm going to put that to the side. That's too big for my parts tray. We have a bump guard here. We want to take the bump guard off to access the other case screws. We have one here. I'm thinking there's two more in the case underneath this bump guard. So let's go ahead and pull that. This should just come down. There we go. A little assist from my screwdriver. You can tell this has not been serviced, or it's not been serviced in a long time. All of the grease from the internal workings of this gearing is leaked out over here. So let's find out which noisy bearing we have. It's got to be the pinion gear in my mind. It may not be, but in my mind at least, it's the pinion gear. Okay, and we want to take the 3 of these out. So if you like these types of videos, if you like seeing how reels come together and how they come apart, how to service them, kind of the technology behind fishing reels, what makes some different than others, then I would invite you to subscribe to my channel. And if you subscribe, please hit the notification button. That way you'll see the videos that I post, and I post frequently. And if you enjoy seeing fishing reels of all kinds, well, you're basically looking over my shoulder in my shop. So I get to do a lot of different types of reels: spinning reels, conventional reels, low profile bait casting reels, ocean reels. Do a lot of ocean reels. Then that subscription will help you see what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and you'll be able to judge whether that's something that you want to watch or not. All right, so we have the 3 case screws out. We should just be able to separate the case now. We can. Here's one of those 5 ball bearings on the main gear. The next thing up we're going to do is we're going to remove the axle shaft. That one's too small. You want to keep a variety of tools close at hand. That way you don't have to put down your reel and the like. In this case, I'm going for a micro screwdriver. Wow, it's even smaller than that. This is a micro screwdriver's Phillips head screw. And my advice here is be careful. Those parts generally are small, they generally fall, and they're very difficult to find. That's why a parts tray helps me in that regard. I'm going to hold this down while I pull the axle shaft out. That came out nice and easy. That's always a good indication that the axle shaft is not bent. Bending axle shafts is a problem for reels. We should be able to pull the main gear and the other bearing out at this point. We have one that's stuck here, so we're going to take the oscillation gear off next. You can grab that by the stud, pull that out. Now we can get the main gear and the 2 side bearings out. And I'm not sure which one's making all the noise. It's not this one. This one came out easy enough. This one not so much. But I'm pretty sure that the noise maker is the one up top. Alright, I'm going to put this bearing right back in the case again, so I don't lose that one. And let's go up top here. I'm going to take these 3 pieces, put them over here. This one I'm having trouble with getting off, so I'm going to just put a spray of penetrating oil on there and let that sit for a moment while I go do the rest of it. If you put it into the side case backwards, it'll stand for you. And I have 3 screws. I have 2 studs. This is very important to notice the orientation on this collar. In this case, all 3 go below. There's 2 studs. And where that override switch is, you'll be able to see that it drops down on that one leg. I've had several reels come into my shop where they've come in bags, and they've come in bags because folks got to this point, they didn't take a picture. Couldn't figure out what the orientation was on collars and anti-reverse bearings and the like. So this is a good point to tell you to do just that. All right, 3 screws. Again, I'm putting them on my desk first because I want to make sure that those screws are all the same size, and they are. So Let's pick another corner of my torch tray, put that in, and then I'm going to put that tension ring right there as well. Now hopefully I can pull this out, and I believe this is the bad bearing in the reel. I see rust underneath. That's usually a good indication that a steel bearing is not performing very well. Kind of hearing it there. And I'm kind of hopeful that I can find a bearing like that in my bearing pack. If not, I may have to order it. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to shut the camera off for a moment. I'm going to go get a measuring. I guess I can do this on camera, show you what I'm looking for. And then I'm going to go into my bearing supplies and see if I have one or if one has to be ordered. So I have a digital caliber. Turn that on, set it to 0. I want to measure the outside diameter of the bearing. In this case, that's 14. I want to measure the inside of the bearing. That's 8, 14 by 8, and I want to measure the width of the bearing. And that's 4. So I have 14 by 8 by 4. That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to go take that look, and then I'll come back to see if we have one or if we have to order one. Okay, well today's my lucky day. I was able to find a replacement bearing that measures exact 14 by 8 by 4. We're going to take this little trim ring off. We're going to clean the shaft. I like to go with the least abrasive in terms of cleaning, so I'll start with just a basic soft brush. And if I can clear the channels with that, I don't want to go any further. If you need an assist, well, you can do that. Just checking to make sure that all of the teeth are uniform, that there's no chips, cracks, bends, and the like that will degrade the performance. Alright, we can go ahead and put some grease back onto that. And we can start the restoration process here. So finish up with the greasing on that gear. Then you want to install your bearing. And we had that little washer that went over the top of the bearing. And we can seat that into the cavity for that bearing. Make sure it's flush. We can bring our case out here. Remember this one. So this one has the 2 studs that line up. There you go. And then that wing came right alongside there. And I pulled the screws out of my parts tray, so let's go ahead and put those back in. Fortunately, these are magnetic screws, so I don't have to worry too much about holding several things at once and trying to get them aligned. But if it can go wrong, it will. There you go. Let's try this again. Okay, 2 more to go on that. So the Abu Cardinal's been around a while. Interestingly enough, Abu was using Garcia as a distributor for some parts, and they wanted to use them for the spinning reels when they came up with their spinning reel. And Garcia had an exclusive distribution contract with Mitchell, the Mitchell Garcias. Garcia wasn't a manufacturer, it was a distributor. And when Abu approached them asking if they would distribute their spinning wheels in the U.S., they couldn't under contract with being under contract with Mitchell. So they actually contracted, Abu actually contracted to sell their Cardinal reels through Zebco. And then eventually the Garcia company went bankrupt. Abu bought the company after a couple of iterations. And now you see Abu Garcia as part of the pure fishing line of folks. All right, I've reinstalled the crosswind gear are going to be installed a crosswind block. It slips under. And you want to bring it down so that it's below. Now this one I haven't had any success at all in terms of getting off. I got it loosened on the shaft, but this end is peened from the handle. So as long as you believe that that bearing is going to be sound, and we'll find out in a moment, you can go ahead and just service it on the post. You want to do a couple of things. You want to pull it out like I did there. You want to get the shaft underneath it, right here, greased. You want to grease the back of the main gear. We're checking the teeth, making sure that they're not chewed up in any way. Now we can go ahead and put that back in. You can press down on that bearing. Completed that, it's time to put the axle shaft in. We've cleaned the axle shaft. You want to just put a light coat of grease onto that. Slide that through. Line the hole in the axle shaft with the hole in the crosswind block. And find that terribly small screw that's easy to drop. I'm going to put a little bit of grease onto the tip of this. Hopefully that'll help hold the screw while I line it up. Go ahead and line it up there. Remember, you have to do this before you do the rotor on, because this gets buried under the rotor. Go ahead and put that back on. Only the one case screw goes in. Well, all three of them go in. All three go in, and then we can put the bump guard on. And we'll see if we have any luck replacing that bearing, or if it's another bearing on the main gear. So bearing on the main gear, I'm going to go ahead and order the set, because I don't have those. Nice reel. Nice reel. It should be fished for years to come. It's a matter of every now and then things, in this case, if that was a steel bearing, things rust. It's unfortunate, but it happens. And that bogs down the performance of the reel for sure. Okay, that's that. Let's go put the wrapper back on this. Also that screw that goes underneath here. And go up top now, put the rotor back on. Now on the rotor, we're going to guess that one of those 5 bearings is a rotor bearing. You also want to put some oil into the slots where the bail meets the rotor. Give it a couple of turns just to make sure that it's nice and loose. Next up then, we have to install this anti-reverse gear. Some of the pieces remained on there, some didn't. First thing up is the little cam that it's going to ride on. You want to clean that off. You don't want any dirt in there. And we had this little Teflon washer. What next? This is where it's helpful, if you didn't recall this stuff, it's helpful to go back and look at your pictures. We had the bronze washer, and we had this top washer. Just trying to line that with the square sides and shoulders. Okay, now we can come back up with the rotor. Nut. Start it by hand. I use my hand to turn this if I can. Finish it with a little touch here. There's a collar next. That's to keep that screw from turning in place. tie down screw. Quick ratchet and quick washer. Handle. Now, there's a drag stack in here, so let's go take a look at the drag stack while we're up here. This has a circle ring that's holding it in. It's a spring. Please hold it tight when you take these out. And I like to pull this piece out. We have hard washers in here. No, we don't. We have what looks like hard washers here. When you get the washers out, clean the case. There's a flat washer that sits on the bottom, is nested in there. We have felt washers. Felt washers need oil. So we'll put a felt washer in, oil that up good. First of the round or keyed washers goes next. Second felt washer goes on, same treatment. We have the eared washer, which works its way into the slots in the spool, so that one point on each side is in the slot. Last of the felt washers. Top washer. Push them all down, make sure that they're seated properly. Grab that metal ring. Anchor one side in and then use your hand strength to get the ring all the way around. Make sure it's in the slot. This one's sitting a little bit below the slot there. And then we can reinstall and we'll give it a test. So if you have a reel that needs to be repaired and you're not up for repairing it yourself, well, I do repairs by mail. If you send me an email to the address on the business card that follows, I'll be happy to provide you with that information. All right, let's find out if one bearing did it or if we need to replace the ones on the main as well. Well, certainly a whole lot smoother than it is or was. I'm happy with that result. Nowhere near the whistling and the grind. So that's what we learned here. We learned that a bad bearing can make an awful lot of noise, can force some people to make a decision to toss the reel, when in essence, it just needs to have a bearing replaced, and that can be done relatively inexpensively. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed working on this reel. I'm going to enjoy more when this reel goes and has a second chance. So hope you've enjoyed it. Please stay safe, stay well, stay watching, and have a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.